Ladies and gentlemen, that was not rehearsed. And here's who I married. Hi, this is Cathy from Easy Sunday Club, and welcome to my YouTube watercolor tutorial. For this tutorial, I'm doing something a little different. I wanted to make this video for a long time now. It's the video that I wish the 2015 me had watched, but I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants, just winging it as I went. I had no idea how watercolor worked or what I needed to get started. So I'm gonna do the high-level overview of all the different materials you need to get started. And at the end, I'm going to give you kind of the no BS recommendation on what I think you absolutely need to start your watercolor practice. My husband, Nam, is behind the camera. He may come in or not come in. He may butt in and ask questions along the way just to make sure this is super beginner friendly. And I'll do a couple of demos and yeah.
Yeah, because I actually don't know anything about watercolor or the brushes, so I am the voice of the audience for this.
Are the audience.
Yeah, for some parts of this at least.
Yes.
All right, let's do it, dude.
Okay, let's do it, dude. Okay, so to create a watercolor painting, it's the very basics. You're gonna need a jar a jar of water. Most watercolor artists use 2 jars, one to clean off a brush that already has paint in it, and the other one's to load brush with water. You also need a pencil and eraser for sketching. Most likely in the beginning, you're gonna want to kind of lay out your design or your subject on a piece of paper. Of course, you need paper, you need brushes, and you need paint. That's pretty straightforward, right?
Is that all the video, or we gotta do a double click?
Yeah, I thought we were trying to keep it under 3 minutes, and we got 30 seconds left to do an outro.
Are you gonna talk about how your stupid water cups are in a old gelato?
Yeah, this is what I recommend.
A plastic gelato jar.
Talenti gelato vanilla bean flavored watercolor.
And your stupid purple mason jar.
Yes, it was on sale. The clear ones were more expensive. So, hey, whatever works, right?
I'm
Plus
surprised
the dirty water through
I'm surprised I haven't drinking out of the mason jar yet.
That's why I bought the purple ones for watercolor. Anyway, let's talk about paint. Okay, so when I first started, this is the kit that a friend of mine gave me for my birthday that I used when I first started practicing watercolor. I think this is perfect for a beginner. This is portable. You can take it wherever you go. It comes with this water brush that you can use already. I'm not a fan of it. I just feel like the level of control and just the bristles, it's not right. It comes with the paint palette, and it comes with these sponge things that you can use to dabble paint off.
So the paint palette is where you eventually mix the paints on, right?
Yes, and I can show you that in a bit, but I just thought this danky little thing, it comes with there's a little ring to help. You can hold it if you don't have a surface and you're just, kind of painting like this. And this kit comes in, I should say this is Sakura Koi, so you can find that on Amazon. This comes in 24 colors. I think they also have a 12 color variation and a 36.
We'll have a link below too.
Yeah, so I went with somewhere in between the 24 color. You can see this was well used, well loved. And there's still a lot of paint left because eventually I moved on to...
Is it expensive?
I think it's no more than 25 bucks.
Okay, and then, so you don't use that anymore, right?
I don't unless I'm traveling and I just want to paint something on it. But mostly for my products that are for sale, I don't use this palette anymore.
And then when you look at it, it looks all beat up and stuff. If you were to use it today or tomorrow, would it still be good?
It's totally usable. You'll see the real beat up palette that I'm using every day. And what this looks messy, but all the colors are, you know, still very usable. Ignore all the cracks and just different colors mixed into each other. Like all of that is totally okay because once you add water, it's water soluble. It will turn into good old paint again.
Cool.
So that's the beginner one. I have this palette here, which is my favorite for beginner, intermediate, advanced. This is also very travel friendly, although it's a little bigger. You can't just toss it in your purse. But what I love it is, I'll show you what the front looks like. This is also well loved. It's got like, I don't know, oil stains or something. It's a Kurotake brand. It's a Japanese brand. I love the pigment. It's well saturated.
How did you find a Japanese brand for watercolor?
I honestly don't remember. I think I read it on the blog and then saw it on Amazon. And the thing is, this is not that expensive either. This is a 36 color kit and
How much is that?
Like $35.
Okay. So why do you like this one more than that? What do I get for an extra $10?
Number one, you get 12 more colors than the koi. But the trade-off is it doesn't come with a palette, so you have to get a separate one. And secondly, I like that these are called cakes. You can remove each cake. So even right now when I have my own like DIY palette here, I'll still take out a few cakes. And you can see some of these colors I'm using more often than others. So I feel like it's more modular. And I really like these colors are already pre-mixed rather than having to mix them yourself.
Have you replaced any cakes yet?
No, and I was reading on forums about it, but I don't know if they offer replacement cakes, which could be problematic if you're, really into or leaning on a color palette. Like right here, I'm really into the browns and dark blues, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I really like this one. We'll link it in our video notes to Amazon or wherever it's the cheapest right now. And
you know what's punny? You can't. This is one of the times you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was not rehearsed. And here's who I married. All right, and next we'll move on to what I'm using right now.
Oh gosh.
I know. You thought that was messy? Wait till you see this.
What the hell's going on?
I'm kind of crazy and this came with nothing in it. It was just a blank palette. I think I got this from Blick's art store, and this is a result of buying tons and tons of these tubes. So as you become more experienced, you're gonna want to buy these tubes because most of the time the starter kits come with certain basic colors that you can mix into other secondary, tertiary colors. But I just like having pre-mixed colors because admittedly I'm not a master at color theory, so when I see a color that I want to use or incorporate into my color palette, I'm just gonna buy it out of the tube. And these tubes last forever. I mean, for watercolor you just squeeze out a tiny bit. Like this one could last me, this little blob here could last me months and months.
But it's like you're not replicating the cake, so I don't need to fill up the whole slot, right? I just need to put a little bit of a little dingleberry or whatever.
Yeah. Rainbow dingleberry. Yes, and my logic for this is it's gonna last longer in the tube than out here. because it's, you know, catch dust and hair and all of that good stuff. So I just want to squeeze out a little bit at a time. And even though it's not neat like these cakes, I try to organize it by color family, right? So you can see like the yellows are roughly right here. I started off with filling in just individual cake containers, but eventually I went nuts with buying the tubes and it just ran out of room. So this kit also comes with a paint mixer, blender. So I like that. I have a lot of surface to work with.
And how often do you clean that? Or you never clean it?
You don't need to clean it.
So this is a couple years old, right, at this point?
Yeah, at least a couple years old. And I clean this off. I mean, this just washes off after every painting.
And then when, like, can you talk about that little key that you have there?
Yeah, so this is kind of a legend that indicates the corresponding paint colors. You can see once I get to the middle, it got a little messy. When I first made it, it was helpful because I couldn't recognize burnt sienna from burnt umber or raw umber. It's like all the shades of browns. Yeah, it's just helpful for mixing paint. But now I'm mostly just using my intuition and eyeballing it. It also just makes it look like a complete set. I don't want to go overboard with the paint, but
okay.
This is the 3 types of paint, and oh yeah, and I did show you the tubes. I use various brands of tubes. My favorite is between the Daniel Smith and the French brand Sennelier. We'll link those as well. But Winsor Newton and most other brands that you see at art stores are pretty great too. And they're different grades of paint, but I'm not going to confuse you right now. Let's move on to the paintbrushes. There are so many different kinds of paintbrushes. There are round ones, flat ones, angled ones, ones that you use as a fan. No, they're just called fan brushes. These are called like filbert, I think. They're kind of between a flat and a round. Mop, flat mop, round mop, long handle, short handle, everything under the sun. This is not even all of it. So what the heck does that mean? Most of the time I use round brushes, and I will show you how versatile they are. This is a size 8, and it's kind of a medium size.
What do the sizes mean?
They refer to the
size of the head, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
not the length or anything.
The bigger the number, the bigger the size, right?
Yes, supposedly. Although, no, when it comes to this big of a brush,
I think it's probably by inches or something.
Yes, this is a 2-inch. This is a 2. So it's different. This number 8 doesn't mean it's 8-inch or whatever. Yeah, so most of the time I use a medium-sized round brush, and I use a small round brush with a tapered tip just to fill in.
And what size details. Is the small one?
That's a size 2.
Okay.
At the end, I'll kind of summarize everything and just tell you like what, let's say like with $50, what I recommend you buy. So with this round brush, you can draw really thin lines, or you can go really thick, when you're doing petals or florals. And yeah, they're just really versatile, and you can kind of go sideways, do dry on dry, wet on dry. The flat brush is great if you want to do straight line washes. See, this is what it would use for, and then obviously you can use it to make straight thin lines as well. But personally, I find that the round brushes with the tapered tip I have more control. And obviously, if you really want to fill in smaller details and thinner lines, you would use the smaller round brush. And the fan one, I honestly don't find a lot of use for it. But if you're a landscape painter, if you want to paint landscape, it's good for, painting grass, I guess. It makes it pretty easy to paint the look of a grass. And these mop brushes, so these have a kind of a dull tip, but the belly is really fat. The belly is the thickest area of the brush, and the fatter the belly, the more water it holds. And as I'm looking at you, I know your brain's turning and you're just waiting. You're just trying to think of another punny joke. I know.
Yeah.
Pressure is on.
Yeah.
And I'll show you how this looks. So this can hold a lot of water.
Nice.
Yeah. But it doesn't do so well with thin straight lines. Make sense? Okay. That's it for brushes for now. Well, since we're on to the next thing already,
paper, get that paper.
Get that paper, yes. There are two main types of watercolor paper. One is cold press and a hot press, and sometimes you'll see and you'll also see rough texture paper, which is even rougher than the cold press. The cold press has a rough texture. You'll notice it's very obvious compared to the hot press. And the hot press has a smooth surface. And if we were to do a comparison between the cold press and the hot press, I find that hot press just doesn't, it feels like the paint kind of this is a cold press. This is the hot press, the smooth surface, and the paint kind of just sits on top, whereas all the texture of the cold press paper kind of soak the paint in, and it's great for creating effects and stuff. But I know depending on the genre, I think maybe for portraits, hot press is better. For animals, which is my main genre, I prefer cold press, so I almost always use cold press. And right now, all of my paintings are done on these loose pieces of watercolor paper. I buy them in these large sheets off on just the art store online. And they come in 22 by 30 inches, and I'll cut them into smaller pieces, depends on what I want to paint. It's just more cost effective that way. But when I started off, I would buy a sketchbook like this. This is a Strathmore watercolor sketchbook. It's cold press paper, but the quality is just not as good as some of the professional papers that I buy. It comes with 48 pages. I would say in the beginning, the quality of paper doesn't matter too much. Don't go too cheap on paper though, because I think as you get better, you'll notice that cheap paper will only get you so far. And
just because it doesn't absorb the water and the paint the same, right?
Yeah, it just doesn't react to watercolor paint the same way as a really nice paper. And my favorite watercolor paper is between a Winsor Newton and Arches. That's still debatable. I might have to do a couple more tests, but those are the two brands I use more.
When you look at the pictures in that sketchbook, does it make you cringe?
It does. It's my first watercolor mini projects, and oh my gosh.
That's like 4 years old or something.
I know, I'm keeping them forever. I forgot another thing. Oh, and when you first start off, I recommend either getting a sketchbook like this or watercolor block. I don't have it here, but you can see it right here. They come in, I think 10 to 20 sheets. And
a block is just like a notepad, right?
Yeah, like a notepad with watercolor sheets. And some of them are bound, so they're like glued to the side, so you don't have to stretch them. And it holds the paper in place. And you can use like a bone folder or a knife to cut them, to separate them after you're done. So.
But I mean, in the beginning, you just want to get your reps in. So if you have to use cheap paper to get your reps in, then just do that. The important thing is just that you paint and have fun.
Yes.
I would guess.
The most important thing is to get started and not be afraid to make horrible pieces. Even right now, I'll make horrible pieces and you'll hear me, yelling at myself or mumbling something in my head before I fold up a nice piece of watercolor paper and toss it in the trash.
If I'm not listening to podcasts.
Yes, you probably don't hear me. So in conclusion, you asked me earlier what I would buy with $50 for a beginner. I would recommend for paint, go with the Koi Watercolor Pocket Field Sketch Box for $25, no more than that. And that will take care of the mixing palette. It does come with a brush, but I don't recommend using that brush. I would get 2 round brushes to start. And if you're going with smaller or smaller paintings like this, I would start with a size 8 and a size 2. If you want to go bold and big and bold and you want to paint large landscape paintings, then obviously go bigger, but round is definitely the way to go. I don't think you'll need to use flat brushes for a while. Yeah, like these are the 2 absolute necessity for a beginner. In fact, most of the time, like 80% of the time, these are the only 2 brushes I use. Well, 2 round brushes. It could go bigger or go smaller. And again, this is a size 8 and a size 2. I like the Escada a lot for the smaller round brush. And I also like Princeton brushes. They are very affordable and they're also high quality. So the brushes will cost you another $5 to $10. That's a medium quality brush of that size. So that takes you up to $35, and for $15 you can get a sketchbook like this, or you can get a block of 9 by 12 watercolor blocks for less than that.
And then we're good to go.
Yeah, and if you're eating ice cream already, you have a watercolor cup. But you can also budget $6 for Talenti at your local grocery store.
Yeah.
Not sponsored by Talenti. Okay, thank you for watching this tutorial. I know we're goofing around a bit, but we want to have fun with this, right? I reminisce about the beginning of my watercolor journey a lot, especially looking through this sketchbook from almost 5 years ago. I do hope that if you are at the beginning of your journey, that you be kind to yourself and be patient with the process, because practice does make better, and I can only hope that watercolor is going to bring you as much joy as it has for me. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Actually, don't reminisce about you beginning watercolor at all.
Why?
I'm just saying.
Cut!